A missing 12-year-old Arkansas girl has been found alive, along with a man suspected of abducting her and killing her and his adoptive parents. Antonia Whitlow in custody. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKVZ forecast for today. Sunny to partly cloudy skies and a high of 84. Southwest winds 5 to 10. For tonight, isolated thunderstorms in the evening, and then a few showers are possible overnight, a low of 65 with northeast winds 5 to 10. A chance of a few showers early tomorrow with isolated thunderstorms later in the day. A warm day with a high of 86. Southwest winds 5 to 10. And then scattered thunderstorms, a possibility for Tuesday with a high around 85. News Talk 1090, the talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well,
and good morning, Muskegon. This is Eye on Muskegon. And I'm Jim Riley here in Muskegon's Clear Channel Studios, still standing after the storm of last week, with my friend, the wizard, the engineer, to get this show going this morning, which I guess I understand we just got going about a minute and a half before we started. Right. That legendary Oscar Osbo. We got a new face as co-host in our rotation, columnist with the Norton Lakeshore Examiner, Tammy Derwin. Good morning, Tammy.
Good morning, Jim. Nice to be here.
Well, glad to have you. And attorney David Wells is here. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Jim.
And David is here this morning to talk about the successful citizen lawsuit, and we're going to reenact some of that. That's a term we will visit shortly. But to talk about the successful citizen lawsuit that I and David helped to file against the county of Muskegon, that may, we hope, hopefully forever change how Muskegon County commissioners engage in what they call closed discussions or closed meetings, which are really intended to keep the public out from knowing really some of the things they're doing. So we're going to talk about that right off the get-go. And after that, at the 9 o'clock hour, a very familiar face to all of us here in West Michigan, former Congressman and now United States Senate candidate Pete Hoekstra will be with us in a recorded segment. And he's going to tell us how he will be and why he will be the best candidate to represent the Republican Party in November's big Senate election against Debbie Stabenow come November. But although he is up for the primary on August 7th, so these Senate folks have got a double job here. Number one, they've got to show how tough they are against each other. But the real question I think that most Republican voters want to know is we want the guy who can beat Debbie Stabenow, and he addresses that, I think, quite well. So right after the news at 9 o'clock, we will play that recorded segment, and then we'll be back with Tammy, and we'll talk about other events here in Muskegon County that are of interest. As always, we do continue to be the only media outlet really here in Muskegon County, and for the most part in West Michigan, that provides live political face-to-face. That's why we're number one rated here. And even if you don't live here in Muskegon County, the playbook that is used by almost every municipality in the state, be it a county or a township or a village, a city, is essentially the same. And you can learn what's going on if you live in Pentwater, or you live in Detroit, or you live in Grand Rapids, or you live in Muskegon or Norton Shores or any of the other the municipalities here in Muskegon County. You can learn a little bit about what's going on there by listening to the show. And we'd like you to listen in, of course, and we thank you for listening in, but bring your friends. Let people know that you can listen every Sunday morning from 8:30 to 10. You can listen on your computer. You can listen on the radio at AM 1090. And Sunday afternoons, I usually post the show, a recording of the show, at EyeOnMuskegon.com, and that's EYE on Muskegon.com, all one word on the Eye on Muskegon. And you can give us a call, too. We are a phone-in show. Give us a call. We are at 231-830-3109. And
phones don't work right now.
And don't call today, as Oscar just suggested, because the phones don't work. Yeah. So we used to be a phone-in show, and we certainly hope to be a phone-in show at some point in the future, but we are not
Maybe
today.
By next week, we'll be a phone-in show.
By next week, we'll be a phone-in show. If you've got a postcard or a letter, you can certainly contact us that way. And actually, you can email us at EyeOnMuskegon at gmail.com. Or you could even, after the show, give me a call at the Eye on Muskegon phone number not here at the studio, but this is actually at my home, which is 231-421-4409. And it's interesting. I've been getting an awful lot of emails, primarily from folks asking, some clarification about different candidates and places where folks can go to get information about the upcoming election, which is kind of nice, and it's nice to be able to communicate back to them. And just a little story here. As most of you know, I am running for county commissioner. I'm running against a long-term incumbent gentleman. This will be running in the Republican primary a week from Tuesday. A gentleman named Bob Skolnick. Well, I put my signs out about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and about a week later, his team put their signs up, and immediately my signs started to disappear, like the next day. And I thought, well, that happens. Later that evening, I started getting, so far now it's over 80 phone calls to the EyeOnMuskegon phone number, which is, thankfully, it's a Magic Jack number, so it goes into the computer. I don't have my phone ringing off at home, of people who are responding to a variety. I think there are now 6 different Craigslist ads throughout the country asking for really bargain-priced rental information. So, coincidence, perhaps, but just to let you know what it's like when you're running for public office. Some folks seem to come out of the woodwork to let you know how they feel. But I want to talk about something that I think is critically important to all of us here in Muskegon County, because we have a county that does not like citizen input. Matter of fact, last week, or perhaps it was the week before, the chairman of the Muskegon County Board, Ken Mahoney, in response to a question by a citizen during the open request time, said, well, we can't respond to your question. And I immediately jumped up and raised my hand, because that's how you do it. And they allowed me to speak. And I said, well, it really isn't a case of that you can't respond. You have just chosen not to respond. And he didn't really like that, but he had to agree. So they're not interested in hearing from us. They're most certainly not interested in responding to us. And we had a very odd situation. Golly, it's a couple months ago, isn't it, David?
March, I think. Way back in March.
Time flies when you're on Social Security, and
the other thing before you go into that, we did talk about that last week a little bit too. And the reason why, I think, is because there isn't as much news media out there anymore, radio or news media anymore, to cover what's going on. So they pretty much have free hands these days.
Well, that's so true, and I'm glad you brought that up, because we quite often will have folks from the Mackinac Center who are really doing the work, the investigative journalism work, trying to expose things that governments at every level are doing. In particular, Mackinac Center's focuses on Michigan, but we focus on Michigan and Muskegon also. And Oscar's point, I think, is well taken. They can do these things because they can get away with it. If the media was there to really shine the light on them, they'd stop. These are not brave people. When they are called out, they tend to scurry into the tall weeds, and that's just the flat out truth. But unfortunately,
they've been to my house. Okay.
Well, they're hiding out in Oscar's backyard. Well, anyway, back in March, the Muskegon County Commissioners, I got to hurry through this. Muskegon County Commissioners said that they called a closed session, which they are allowed to do under certain circumstances. They went in, they spoke for about, 13 minutes? We timed it. It was a very short period of time. They then came out and they agreed to vote on what they discussed, which was still secret. They voted for this event that happened, which was to make a loan of $2.35 million from the county treasury to the county-owned Brookhaven medical facility, which is a nursing home. And one of the county commissioners, who typically is the only one who asks the tough questions, Alan Jagger, raised his hand and said, look, this is there's a lot of information here. I don't really quite understand what's going on. I would like to have another couple of days anyway, so that I can check with my constituents and find out what's going on, and make an informed decision, which is really what their job as commissioners is to do. And I believe he did get a second for that, And so, in fact, they then took a vote, and the vote was 9-2 that no, you're not going to get any more time. And then the vote was taken, and interestingly, it was 10-1 to go ahead with this. So I saw this happen, and I said, this is kind of odd. What would compel these commissioners, and what was so secret that it couldn't be made public, what would compel these folks to vote for this with at least one of them, or two of them anyway, saying, hey, wait a minute, I don't quite understand it. So I filed a Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, F-O-I-A, request, I guess you call it, asking to see the information that was presented to the county commissioners in this secret meeting. And immediately, which was kind of nice, at least at the time, the county attorney responded via email. This is a closed session. We're allowed to have private sessions of this sort. You can't have your information. And I grumbled, as I am wont to do, to various friends. And thankfully, I grumbled with attorney David Wells. And by the way, David Wells is, I believe, the most qualified candidate running to be a circuit court justice. So keep that in mind on August 7th in this coming primary. But David is a guy who's very interested in transparency in government and very interested in helping out. And of course, you've got a long history of community involvement and helping folks out. But when you heard me, grousing about the fact that it doesn't appear that the citizens can get any answers on this, you kind of jumped in and gave me some background. So take it from there.
Sure. I was a political science major in college, and then after getting out of law school, I've worked as a municipal attorney for various municipalities. And you're right that transparency of government is a very important thing to me, and it was very important when I acted as a municipal attorney. And the very suspicious thing immediately with this is when you told me that they came back from closed session, and within 30 to 60 seconds, they voted to approve a $2.5 million loan.
We have this on video, which is why we know these numbers.
And my immediate reaction was, well, they had to have discussed this in closed session, and that's not a permissible topic to talk about in a closed session. So that started us talking about whether or not you had some legal remedies.
Well, and again, because of the experience that you've had, which is pretty broad, and I'm not going to make this a commercial for your candidacy, but it is pretty broad, and it does include very extensive municipal research and finding out what is permissible at the municipal level. We started to believe pretty strongly that there was a violation, but the problem was we didn't know specifically what was talked about in the meeting, and we were able to get again, I believe the bravest of them all, County Commissioner Alan Jagger, got out and said, "Look, I'll tell you what happened inside," and he did. So we then I spoke with David. I said, "What options do we have?" Well, the only option was to file a lawsuit. And these lawsuits are fairly expensive. So in order just to get a simple response to something that, as we're going to talk about, we did prevail in this lawsuit, to get information out to the public, I was forced to file a lawsuit. Now, that cost $155 to file the lawsuit. And then, of course, I had to hire an attorney. And I spoke with David, and he did much, much more further research to make sure that we had a real case, a real opportunity to win. And so I decided, okay, I'll agree to pay what the legal fees are. And David put together the lawsuit. And that went back and forth. Maybe you can take the back and forth, because it went on for months and months.
Well, the problem that we had with this case is that immediately the County of Muskegon went into defensive mode. And they denied that not only did they deny you the information that you requested, they denied that they did anything wrong. Instead of just saying, oops, we made a mistake, and yes, we did talk about this in closed session and we shouldn't have talked about it, they denied that it was improper or illegal, or they did anything improper or illegal. And that forced you to file a lawsuit and forced us to continue with the legal process for a much longer time than it should have been necessary.
Well, and now this event has evolved into two issues. One is the Freedom of Information Act for the information that was presented, and then two was, as it turns out, the far more important issue of the county using these illegal, as it turns out, illegal closed sessions in order to have discussions that they'd like to have, and they must by law have if there's a majority of the commissioners together and they're talking about county issues, to keep that secret from the public. They did not want us to know what was going on. They did admit the $2.35 million loan, which, by the way, they call a loan, that still hasn't been examined. And after the election, I promise you, we will do a big examination of that, because our intent is for our county commissioners to be open and transparent with us, and also to nudge them to do the right thing if, in fact, they are inclined not to do so. But so back to this lawsuit, it went back and forth. They went into defensive mode. We asked for a simple situation or a simple answer back in March. The county did an unusual thing, which they did what they call a reenactment shortly thereafter. Can you explain what that was all about?
Well, there is a provision in the Open Meetings Act which says that if you take an action or you discuss something in a closed session and it was not properly discussed, then the action that you took after the closed session, in this case the loan, is not properly made. In other words, their motion to approve the loan was not legally proper because they discussed it in closed session. So there is a provision to remedy that, and it's called a reenactment, and basically they then go into open session. They essentially reenact everything that took place in the closed session, then they revote on the issue. And that's what they did in this case in order to make that loan to Brookhaven a legal loan. Okay, and
again, this was David Wells had been doing some research, and of course now the county attorney's having to do some research, which seems to me he should have known to begin with. But nonetheless, the fact that they did this reenactment was essentially an acknowledgement that, in fact, this was an illegal closed meeting, which one would have thought at that point that there would be an easy answer, take care of it. But, in fact, that easy answer didn't happen. We're going to take a little break, and we'll be back to give you the rest of the story.
Hi, I'm Tom Sanaki, and it's polka time, and a perfect time to gather your family together for a good, clean, wholesome family show every Saturday and Sunday mornings right here on the Talk of Muskegon with the Polka Melodies. News Talk 1090 WKBZ Muskegon, WOOD HD2 Muskegon, and newstalk1090.com. Come on!
It's polka time, polka time, polka time, polka time.
Attention all women with a muffin top. Research from the Mayo Clinic proves that people who carry fat in their midsection have a higher risk of health problems, such as heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, and even cancer. If this is you, we have good news, because women who need to lose 30 pounds or more instantly qualify for a free trial of Sensa, a clinically proven way for women to lose weight all over. To experience the most dramatic weight loss results, you must be a female over the age of 25 and need to lose over 30 pounds. Call 1-800-962-1015 now and request your free 30-day trial. In a 6-month clinical study, one of the largest weight loss studies ever conducted, participants lost an average of 30 pounds using Sensa. And if you're a woman, now you can too. Call and instantly qualify for your free trial of Sensa. 1-800-962-1015. Strict limit of 1 free trial per household. 1-800-962-1015. That's 1-800-962-1015.
I lost weight with the Amberin program.
I lost a ton of weight with the Amberin program.
Thousands of women over 40 who used to struggle with weight gain are having incredible success with the Amberin program. That's because Amberin balances your hormones naturally, making losing weight surprisingly easy. Plus, Amberin eliminates other symptoms of unbalanced hormones, like hot flashes, irritability, and sleeplessness. Call in the next 15 minutes to receive a risk-free trial with a 30-day supply free. Call 1-800-921-8040. That's 1-800-921-8040.
The Talk of Muskegon. News Talk 1090, WKBZ.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well,
The dadgum government not only has its hands in every pocket of our clothes, it won't let us know it's doing it because they utilize things like closed sessions and other legal mumbo-jumbo to try to keep us from knowing what's going on. And we're back with David Wells and Tammy Derwin and Oscar Osbo. David, let's maybe take it forward where we are in this lawsuit. We trying to get some information. You're going back and forth, and now it's under the control of a lawyer.
Well, procedurally, what was rather interesting to me is that the county's legal advisors kept asking for additional time in order to respond to the lawsuit once we filed it, which we gave them additional time, and then they had this reenactment. And then after the reenactment took place and the revote, then they finally filed their response, and they still denied that they did anything wrong, and which was really kind of surprising. It's like, well, why did they do the reenactment if they didn't do anything wrong?
Yeah, that's essentially that is, an admission, not to mention the fact that the original Freedom of Information Act filing that I made, asking for the information that was presented to the commissioners at the meeting, they did give me that information now, only after the lawsuit was filed.
And so I requested a transcript of what took place in the closed session, or I wanted a transcript to go to the judge so the judge could look at it. There wasn't a transcript. So then I decided I was going to schedule depositions of various people who were part of that closed session to talk about what actually took place.
Because there's no other way to find out. There was no there was no transcript, there was no minutes of sorts, and and since they had a closed session, no one else knew what went on. So the only way to get the truth was to have an attorney say, "Okay, we're going to sit down with Ken Mahoney and Bob Skolnick and Marv Engel and say, what happened under oath."
So only after I did that did the county finally say, "Okay, we did it. We violated the law. We did something wrong." They filed a motion with the judge, and in the motion, they admitted that there were issues talked about in the closed session meeting which were not permitted by the Open Meetings Act, and therefore we were entitled to the remedies allowed for you under the Open Meetings Act. And essentially that remedy, you'd already received the information that you requested, and the other part of the remedy was to have all your costs and attorney fees paid.
And that was significant. It was in the thousands of dollars to pay for David's months and months long not defense, but helping us to try to find this information. Certainly the county attorney and whatever staff he had incurred significant, I would imagine it would be in the thousands. We might even try to do a FOIA request to find out what that was. But the simple facts are that they fought this like crazy. And ultimately, when David upped it and said, okay, we're going to do interviews and depositions, they folded. Now, the interesting side story here is the information that we found that was kept from the Chronicle, was kept from the public, was that in addition to this $2.35 million loan, which of course is not a loan, to the horribly mismanaged by the county leaders, the horribly mismanaged Brookhaven Medical Care Facility, they had also given during either 2011 or sometime 2012 another $1.2 million. They didn't want us to know about that. So that's how our government is operating. They're not only doing things in the dark. When a citizen asks a simple question, they get, like you said, in full defensive mode. They lawyer up just like frankly, any guilty person would do, because that's the only way you can really keep the information from getting out. Well,
in fairness, Jim, too, not all governments operate that way. We have numerous municipalities in the county of Muskegon, and they don't all operate that way. Some of them are very strict about the Open Meetings Act and are very open. Other ones tend to be a little more secretive.
Well, they may be. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you brought that up. I would imagine there are not too many at all that operate in the same level that Muskegon County Board of Commissioners operates. And I do know I was speaking with one of the aides to a statewide elected representative who deals with the various counties, and that person has told me face to face that Muskegon County is operated in a manner differently in terms of openness from others. The point of this whole thing is, if it wasn't for somebody who had the ability to pay an attorney in the event that we lost, if there wasn't somebody like myself, and not that I'm Mr. Big here, but the points that somebody had to do it, you had to file a lawsuit, you had to go through these many, many months, and have a tenacious attorney like David Wells to get the truth out to the public. The county would continue to do this. Now, the only way that this will that our victory will become a real victory is if the county changes its policies. And we don't really know if those policies are going to be changed, because when they go into closed session, they're clearly not to be trusted. So we do have a group of commissioners who are running in these primaries in November who do not believe in secrecy. It's unfortunate that the only way that you can get the truth out of the county commission is to file a lawsuit of many thousands of dollars. David, thank you for being there. Thank you for your knowledge. You said we'd win this. It's you never know, but we did, and I can't thank you enough and wish you the best in the primary where you'll be running for circuit court. You're running in a gaggle of 6 of you. It's David Wells running for circuit court justice.
Thank you, Jim.
We'll be back shortly, folks.
Imagine that your car needs a new engine, and the mechanic has just handed you a bill for $4,000. How would you pay for it? Could you pay for it? Well, if you had AutoAssure, you wouldn't even have to think about it, because AutoAssure could pay that bill for you. In fact, if you have AutoAssure, you'll never have to worry about paying another expensive covered repair bill ever again. That's guaranteed peace of mind. And not only can you keep your money, you can keep your mechanic or dealer too. AutoAssure pays them directly. For free information, call now, 1-800-709-3267. You choose the coverage you need. If your car has less than 200,000 miles, you won't pay for any covered repair. Not for a transmission, air conditioning, suspension system, or anything else. So don't even think about wasting your hard-earned money on another expensive car repair. Let AutoAssure pay them for you. Call now for your free information. 1-800-709-3267. That's 1-800-709-3267. 1-800-709-3267.
There's hundreds of fun and simple things you and your family can do to live a healthier lifestyle. Here's 20 of them. Walk to work, walk the dog, have the dog walk you, take a hike, take a bike, skate, dance, hop, jump, do the Humpty Hump, skip seconds, skip dessert, skip to my loo, don't skip breakfast, drink H2O, lower your sodium, raise the roof, shake your booty, stock up on vegetables, and don't forget to eat them. For many more simple tips, visit iHeartRadio.com/healthy habits.
A message from the Ad Council and NIH's We Can.
Car number 7 is pulling into the pit.
What's my winning diabetes plan?
Start taking action now for diabetes.
Medications.
Got them. And my insulin supplies.
Exercise.
Most days.
Blood sugar level?
On target.
Diet?
Eating healthy.
A1C under control.
Managing diabetes, including controlling blood sugar, is a team effort that requires a plan that's right for you. For more information, visit standfordiabetes.org.
A public service of TCOYD made possible with support from Sanofi Aventis US.
The Talk of Muskegon is News Talk 1090 WKBZ Muskegon and heard 24 hours a day on WOOD HD2 Muskegon.
Fox News Radio, I'm Rich Johnson. Zero tolerance is how Mitt Romney describes his policy toward Iran's desire to build a nuclear weapon.
As we face the challenges of an Iran seeking nuclear capability, we must draw upon our interests and our values to take them on a different course.
That's Romney before his meeting in Israel with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Later, a Romney advisor said the former governor would respect an Israeli decision to strike Iran to prevent it from going nuclear. Romney visited Jerusalem's Western Wall today and is due to make a major speech later this morning. But while Romney tries to brush up his foreign policy credibility and collect some cash in Israel, those very few Americans still undecided about the election in November have their doubts.
People have not decided that the alternative is a legitimate president in waiting.
University of Virginia political science professor Larry Sabato on the big challenge that Romney faces between now and Election Day, 100 days from now. Sabato says the battle is now over the 5% of likely voters that are still undecided. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta is making a 5-day Mideast trip in which he will meet with the new leaders of Egypt and Tunisia. He'll also visit Jordan and Israel. That crisis in Syria involves what one rebel calls the killing machine. The rebels appealing to allies around the world for help as they try to hold off portions of portions of Aleppo. Sky News reporter Stuart Ramsey is there, watching Syrian troops try and try again to breach rebel defenses.
When they can't move in, or if they attempt to move in, this is the Syrian government, and they fail, they then withdraw and pound the place and then take another attempt to go in. We think that is the process that's happening now.
And while the opposition talks of forming a transition government, Iran's foreign minister says the idea of any kind of power transition in Syria is an illusion. Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKBZ forecast for today. Sunny to partly cloudy skies and a high of 84. Southwest winds 5 to 10. For tonight, isolated thunderstorms in the evening, and then a few showers are possible overnight, a low of 65 with northeast winds 5 to 10. A chance of a few showers early tomorrow with isolated thunderstorms later in the day. A warm day with a high of 86. Southwest winds 5 to 10. And then scattered thunderstorms a possibility for Tuesday with a high around 85. News Talk 1090, the talk of Muskegon.
I lost weight with the Amberin program.
I lost a ton of weight with the Amberin program.
Thousands of women over 40 who used to struggle with weight gain are having incredible success with the Amberin program. That's because Amberin balances your hormones naturally, making losing weight surprisingly easy. Plus, Amberin eliminates other symptoms of unbalanced hormones, like hot flashes, irritability, and sleeplessness. Call in the next 15 minutes to receive a risk-free trial with a 30-day supply free. Call 1-800-921-8040. That's 1-800-921-8040.
News Talk 1090 is the talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum.
And we are back. And we are very honored to have with us today Congressman, I call him Congressman Peter Hoekstra. He wants to be called Pete. He is the long-term serving, just as far as I'm concerned, the best congressman we've had in this country. Peter Hoekstra, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Good to be with you. Thank you.
And along with us as co-host, as we earlier talked about, David Wells. David is bringing the legal mind here to interrogate poor Pete. So good morning again to you, David. Well, the reason you're here, of course, is we've got a big election coming up in not very long, a couple weeks. Republican primary for the United States Senate. And, of course, Pete, you've been well-versed in how our government works. We've had Debbie Stabenow as our senator representing the state of Michigan for almost 12 years now. Debbie would like to make it 18. And a lot of folks think that you're the guy that can knock her off. You've got two challengers at this point in the Republican primary. And I think the question that has come up more often than not when I talk to people about this very important August 7th primary to see who will be the Republican challenger to Debbie Stabenow is not so much your conservative history, which I do want to talk about, but we need somebody who can beat Debbie, someone who's got the legs, the organization to come November to triumph over Debbie. I know that you've been asked this question before. Tell us, okay, why is Pete the guy?
Well, I think if you want to beat an incumbent senator, it's going to be very, very difficult. I know that because I beat an incumbent long-term congressman 26 years ago.
That's true.
I know how hard it is to beat an incumbent. You need to have a candidate and a campaign, number one, that has the creativity to develop the strategy to go against a long-term incumbent. We proved that in 1992, and I think we're going to be able to prove that again in 2012. The second thing is you got to have the candidate that can put together the entire campaign. You know, some of the folks that are still involved in this primary, they're running a media campaign. They're hoping that they can get enough negative ads on TV from outside organizations that can take down Hoekstra. Well, you know, the objective here is not about beating Pete Hoekstra. The objective here is getting a conservative U.S. senator, and you are not going to beat Debbie just by thinking that, you know, you can get some outside money in and run some negative campaigns and run some negative ads. We've put together the full campaign here that includes cable television, network television, direct mail, you know, a whole sign strategy, a whole absentee voter program. I've put together the entire campaign that I think on August 7 at 8 p.m. is going to be fully ready to engage Debbie Stabenow in a full race for this Senate seat. So we've got the capacity, the capability, the creativity to win this race. The other thing is, you take a look at it, our campaign, you know, representing West Michigan, coming from West Michigan, is a perfect complement to our presidential nominee, Mitt Romney, from Southeast Michigan. You know, so if you take a look at what happened in the presidential primary, Mitt was rock solid in Southeast Michigan. Rick Santorum was rock solid in West Michigan.
Yeah, Rick had great success here in the
primary.
He had
great success. And so what you do is you bring those two forces together. My base, which is Grand Rapids, Muskegon, Holland, Western Michigan, running up against or running with Mitt's strength out of Southeast Michigan. It makes it a twofer. We elect a senator, and we win these electoral votes for Mitt Romney. And so, you know, we end up with a new president and a new Senate in Washington. That doesn't even start getting into this. I've been campaigning, you know, statewide, either for governor and now in the Senate race. It'll be over 2 years. You need that kind of name recognition around the state if you expect to be the next senator.
Well, you're certainly well known here in West Michigan, and I think that many of us, certainly those who are politically astute, are aware of it. But many of us in the state and nationally remember you as the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee during some extraordinarily difficult and challenging years. And we saw you on TV a lot.
Yeah, that's right. And it's not better being on TV or anything like that. It was being able to get the job done that needed to be done by the Intelligence Committee. You know, we worked with the Senate. We reformed the intelligence community in 2004 with a major piece of legislation. And that legislation has worked to keep us safe as a country for the last 8 years. You know, there's not been an attack on the homeland since that time. We also led the effort to rebuild the intelligence community, you know, the CIA, all of these things that, you know, President Obama's taking credit for, you know, about being tough on terrorists and these types of things. It would not have been capable of happening if we hadn't rebuilt the capabilities of the intelligence community under President Bush and under the leadership that me and others provided on the Intelligence Committee. We provided them with the latitude, the resources to do the job to keep us safe.
Well, one thing that I'm impressed with is I'm not totally impressed with experience, but in your case I am, because not only were you the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, which was, again, tremendously important at the time and still is, but you were able to bring together Democrats and Republicans together on that committee to accomplish some changes. And you told us a little story earlier about that. Maybe you could extrapolate on that a bit.
Sure. I mean, you know, in 2004, and immediately after 2001, 9/11, everybody recognized that the intelligence community had not done what was necessary to keep us safe. They hadn't identified the threat, they hadn't prepared us, and we didn't build the defenses against radical jihadism. So what we did is, in 2004, I was assigned the task to lead a conference committee that brought together a conservative Republican from West Michigan, myself, brought together one of the more liberal members of the House of Representatives, a Democrat from Los Angeles, Jane Harmon, brought together an independent senator, Joe Lieberman from Connecticut, and Susan Collins, a moderate Republican from Maine, They put us in the room and they said, all right, hammer out a compromise to reform the intelligence community and enable it to be successful, to identify the threats that are out there, to combat those threats, and hopefully to defeat those threats. 3.5 months later, we had an intelligence reform bill. Is it the bill that Pete Hoekstra would have written? No, I would have written it differently. But was it a bill that, the four of us could agree on as being a great bill that would significantly improve the intelligence community and that would keep America safe, that would pass the House, that would pass the Senate, and would get the signature of the president? And that bill did all of those things. I never felt I had to compromise my principles to get to that point. And we were able to get to that point because, number one, we were all competent on the issue. We all understood intelligence. We all understood the legislative process. And the second thing is we all liked each other. Well, I mean, Jane Harmon was, we probably couldn't find, you could find a couple of other people, but, our voting records on conservative liberal scale would be very, very far apart. But we liked each other, and we recognized that it was important to the country to get intelligence reform completed and start implementing it, and we did, and it's working.
Well, that's what I would call legislating, getting a group of desperate people together and then getting the legislation passed. I've yet to hear any type of legislation that Debbie Stabenow has really driven and succeeded. Are you going to be going after her on that? Because even though you don't have the experience as a senator, you most certainly have the experience as a responsible legislator.
Well, we'll talk about it pretty extensively. I mean, she's been on the Budget Committee in the Senate for the last 3 years. The Senate hasn't passed a budget in 3 years. Are we at all surprised that we've got, mushrooming deficits, that the debt is skyrocketing out of control? We're not at all surprised. Why? Because the Senate can't even pass a budget. She's a critical member of a leader in the U.S., quote unquote. She's supposed to be a leader in the U.S. Senate and is on a committee that's totally dysfunctional. She's the chairperson of the Ag Committee. Sure.
Now, we just saw what $3 billion directed. I believe it was at the state of Michigan from Debbie. She wrote us a check, I guess, or something.
Yeah, I don't
think
she may have facilitated the writing of a check, but the bottom line, the money's not out there. Anywhere else in the world, that check would probably bounce, and it's because she can't get a budget passed through the Budget Committee. On the Ag Committee, sure, the Senate has passed an ag bill this year. Big deal. It's not going to become law. She hasn't had the opportunity, and she hasn't provided the leadership to get a bill through the House, the Senate, and get it to the president's desk and have it signed into law. It's always easy when you're in the majority to pass a bill if you're the chairman of the committee. The key is, do you have the capacity to help bring the process forward and actually get, this is the old thing when you're the difference between a bill and a law when you're going to school. How does a bill become a law?
I'm just a bill.
I'm just a bill. That's right. And I think what you can say about Debbie is that she's got a lot of things in her portfolio that are just a bill and not much in terms of it's a law.
Okay. All right. And that makes sense to me. Again, this all comes back to, can you be the nominee who's going to beat her? And frankly, at this show, we want a conservative to be our next senator in the state of Michigan. Yeah. Getting back to the conservative side of it, folks have told me, folks on the very, very conservative right, and said, "Well, Pete, he's been around too long. He's not a maverick any longer. He had some votes that I didn't like. He voted for, let's say, the Cash for Clunkers." And yet, when I've done homework and looked at your record, you're one of the most conservative congressmen that's really been in modern times.
We've got a great conservative record. Any group that rates members on their votes would rate me very far to on the conservative scale as being conservative. 100% pro-life, straight A's from the NRA. taxpayer superhero because I voted against spending and those types of things. There's no doubt and no question about my conservative credentials. Others will try to minimize those. But those are distortions. They're trying to take a couple of votes here and there. And you know what? After being in Congress for a number of years and looking back, at a vote that I took 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, you might say, you know what? Hey, today I don't like that vote either.
Okay. How did that work out for you?
Yeah, how did that work out for you? And so, that's the luxury of never having to have been accountable to actually make a decision. And just saying, well, I wouldn't have voted for that. And it's kind of like easy for you to say 5 years later.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that.
Does he ever let you ask a question?
Whenever I want to.
Okay,
yes.
All right.
He's doing such a good job. I haven't butted in yet.
I do warn my co-hosts that they have to watch when I take a breath in order to dive in.
Yeah, okay.
And,
all right.
and of course, we are here to hear Pete Hoekstra talk about his bona fides and how not only how you're going to win, but a little bit of this history, because another point that you had brought up earlier today was that. And you touched on it just in this session, but when you're running strong, when we've got a Senate candidate who's running strong in the state where the president can reasonably call his home state, the presidential candidate, we've got a 2-for-1 when it comes for the support from the national party, that you have a relationship with Mitt Romney, and I don't intend to take away from Clark Durant or Randy Heckman, but the facts are that you've built over many years, as you said, you've built a campaign and an organization and relationships that you won't be out of money on August 7th.
No, that's right. I mean, hey, I came out of the business world. You're always planning long term. You're planning for the future. I spent 15 years at Herman Miller. And what you recognize now, the election is not August 7th. Yeah, there's an election on August 7th, and it's important because it will pick the nominee. But the ultimate, the real key election is on November 6th, because that's where we will pick the president who will serve for the next 4 years, and where we will pick the person that will be sworn into the Senate on January 3 and will serve for 6 years. And, the candidate that is selected on August 7th needs to be ready to run on the morning of August 8th. And people say, well, Pete, you got 13 weeks to get ready.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of like,
you don't take a couple days off or take a cruise?
Yeah, no, it's kind of like, no, you don't have 13 weeks to get ready, because absentee voters, early voters, they start voting on October 1. So you've got the balance of August and you've got all of September. But then absentee voters, early voting starts on October 1. You've got 7.5, 8 weeks to get ready for the beginning of the voting. And, a lot of these other campaigns, none of these other campaigns are going to be ready on August 8th to fully engage Debbie and to start moving.
You mentioned that with perfect 20/20 hindsight, there's sometimes issues you would have, had you known what you know now, you would have voted differently. I know we're talking about the Republican primary here, and some of the ultra-conservatives are criticizing you for supporting bailouts, and I just wanted to know if you wanted to comment on those criticisms that are out there.
Well, I mean, we're in a financial crisis, and so the president, John McCain, Barack Obama, they're all, they're running for president at that time, and they're all talking about this fiscal crisis that we're headed to. And I wasn't convinced. So we had a vote on the Troubled Asset Relief Program, TARP as it's fondly called, and I voted no. And I'll never forget it. What happened? I've got a small little banker up in Scottsville, Michigan, who calls me, and he's kind of a crotchety guy, but he's always been a good friend and
crotchety's okay.
Yeah, and a good friend. And he calls me and says, "Hey Pete, I'm going to take your picture. I'm going to put it up on my bulletin board. You're my hero. You said no." I said, "Thanks, Tom." And we talked to a lot of other people. There were a lot of people who were disappointed because they thought there was a real need to do this. Tom called me back 3 days later, and he'd been in the banking business for probably 35 years, and he said, "Pete, I've never seen anything like this before in the banking world. I can tell you right now that if you guys don't do something, the lines of credit are going to freeze. And this is not about Wall Street, Pete. This is about, Main Street, Ludington. It is about Main Street, Scottville. It is about, Pentwater. It's about Muskegon. This is about Main Street, USA. And you're going to see a calamity that I've never thought I would see in my life if you don't do something. So I took his input from a lot of other people, and decided that as ugly as the choice was, that at that point in time there might have been better ways to have done it, but I only had one vote. It wasn't like maybe or I'll vote for that, but you need to make these changes. When we voted on TARP the second time around, there were a number of significant changes that had been made to the bill. And with the input that I received from Main Street, West Michigan, I voted for it. And we averted the calamity. Now, there will be those that will criticize that vote. And we don't know who's right, because we don't know what the alternative what would have happened in the alternative universe if we hadn't passed it. Would it have been as bad as what people said it was going to be? But would it be for a very short duration? Would it have been not too bad, or would it have been really, really ugly? And what we have seen is that we've come back. We didn't have the calamity. And I think if we'd had a president that had not embarked on a stimulus plan, had not, wanted to clearly demonstrate that he wanted to increase taxes, if we had had a president who wasn't focused on taking over health care and instead had focused on what it was necessary to get this economy going, I think we would have all been better 3 or 4 years later. But after we did the TARP vote, we got a president who took us down a direction that I think has significantly weakened the economy, and done so to a much greater extent than whatever happened under TARP.
I have noticed, too, that regardless of what your position is regarding bailouts or stimulus, that this one actually did work out, that the economy didn't go, and also the money was paid back, unlike some of the other stimulus money where it hasn't been paid back.
Much of the money has been paid back. It hasn't all been paid back, but much of the money has been paid back. But, this election is not going to be about TARP. This election is going to be about, do you really believe that Debbie Stabenow and Barack Obama have a vision for our economy that will give us confidence, will give our friends and neighbors confidence that this economy is going to come back? Do we really believe in their scheme for raising taxes, that will help create jobs for our kids and for our neighbors? I don't think so. Excuse me. Do we really think that his plans for regulation, increased regulations, Obamacare, Dodd-Frank, EPA, and all of these types of things, that this is going to help the economy? I don't think so. Do we really believe that this president is willing to embrace the concept of being energy independent, that we will use our vast resources of coal, gas, and oil to finally wean us off of a dependency on Venezuela and the Middle East? I don't think so. I think this guy's going to go after fossil fuels. His administration, if he's in office for four more years, I think they will go after fossil fuels very, very hard. And by that, I mean they're going to regulate them out of existence by pricing them so expensive that, our economy will suffer, jobs will suffer. I think that those are the issues that this campaign is going to hinge on.
Well, that's an issue, the energy issue, that's clearly separates you from Debbie. You've gotten, people have, at least I've read, and I think I would have to agree that over the last few years, you've gotten to be a little tougher guy when it comes to emotion and getting out there and getting passionate when you're on the stump and when you're involved in debates and things. You're going to have some debates with Debbie. How many are they?
Well, we really don't know. We know that the last time she ran for re-election, she really only allowed for 3 debates, none on statewide TV.
Okay.
There was one at the Detroit Econ Club, so that's at a luncheon. That's not statewide TV. There's another one that was done on public television. So public television will carry it, but it won't be on like a network. And then I think there was one other opportunity, but again, it was not covered by TV live where there was a debate. My premise on this would be, in the primary, we've actively engaged in debates. We've done somewhere between 8 and 10 different forms that allows the voters to see who you are
at the Republican primary level.
At the Republican primary level, and you're up there for with 6, 8 of us standing up there, and the questions coming at you. I thought that was a very, very healthy process, and that's why we participated in them. And I would hope that you could see somewhere around 5, 6 of those, and have them on statewide TV with Debbie. I mean, if you did 6 debates, it'd be one for every year. All right, every year that you would hope to be able to serve forward. Is that really too much to ask? Committing, they're typically an hour long. Debbie, are you really not willing to commit 6 hours to debating the substance, the future of this state, the future of this country? 1 hour for every year you hope to serve. She's looking at going, representing the state for 18 years.
Yeah, that's and again, I think a question that certainly worked well with President Reagan was, are you better off today than you were when Debbie Stabenow was first elected or most recently elected? Let me ask you this: another issue that's a biggie, and I don't really know where she stands, although I suspect I do, and that is on immigration reform. The President of the United States is making some sweeping changes. I'm sure he's got the support of much of his party. Where do you stand on this?
Well, what the president has decided to do is the president doesn't want to implement current law.
Do you think that's a good idea?
No, that's a terrible idea. Of course it's a terrible idea. More recently the president has said he's not going to implement the law anymore on parts of welfare reform. Talked to Congressman Dave Camp, who fought passionately to put in a work requirement into welfare reform. The president just said, that's not that important anymore. We're just not going to implement it.
That's the one that's going on right now, where they're talking about they're giving you credit for work for waking up, apparently.
Yeah, and so, that's where they are. Those are the kinds of things that they are looking at. But, on immigration, it's kind of like we need immigration overhaul. You need to secure the borders. You need to secure the workforce, meaning that, you've got to put in place some system that an employer has a high degree of confidence of knowing that the person that they've just hired or that they're considering hiring is in the country legally. And you can do this with E-Verify.
So they're not at risk. And
they're not at risk.
E-Verify is a policy or a program that works, right?
E-Verify is very simple. It's kind of like the vision is you take a card.
Okay.
You swipe it like a credit card. And the same thing that happens at the gas station will happen in your office, and it will happen as quickly that you'll get a little printout that says, this card, the holder of this card, or this card represents someone who is in the country legally and is entitled to work in the country. And you'll have a paper record, you'll have an electronic verification, and at that point in time, you're fine. And
now, this isn't a new concept, though. I thought this was already in place.
It is in some places, but it's not. It has not been universally applied. And so you do those those things, and then the third thing you do, you make sure that you've got a visa program that works. It works for farmers. It works for high tech. Obviously, there's a lot of farmers in West Michigan that are dependent on migrant labor. But you can put, Herman Cain, I think, has a really good idea. If people want to come here and they want to work here on a temporary basis, migrant workers, have someone put up a fee for them when they come in. It goes into an escrow account. While they're here, they collect a certain part of their wages. Another part of their wages goes into this escrow account, and they get this escrow account when they leave the United States. We may deduct it there may be a partial deduct for taxes and those kinds of things. But that then provides them the incentive to come into the country legally, to work here and then to leave.
Trust but verify.
And trust but verify is not a bad policy.
Hey, Pete,
and I think also incentivize.
Pete, one of the things that you have been talking about and you mentioned is you said a banker from Scottville, downtown Ludington. One of the things that at least I feel at the federal level that we have not been represented as well in Western Michigan as maybe we should. And I guess what's your viewpoint on the role of a West Michigan candidate as far as having an effect on what's going on here on this side of the state?
Yes, I'd like.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd like to believe that you would think that in the years that I represented West Michigan and Muskegon, that I represented West Michigan very, very well. But,
and you did,
yeah,
absolutely.
But I mean, this is one where you're always advocating. I mean, I think not far from here, you've got the Muskegon Airport, and you may remember that there was a time where, number one, we knew we needed a Coast Guard rescue facility on the Great Lakes. And the choice was, is it going to be down in Illinois? Is it going to be down in St. Joe, Benton Harbor area? Is it going to be in Muskegon? So you're going to do that. We fought like crazy to make sure that station came to Muskegon, and it did.
Mm-hmm. Clout and connections help. Experience and knowing how to get the job done matters.
It does. And so it's not that you're, there's always two separate decisions, and probably many more as you go through this process, and in different areas. The first decision is, is the federal government going to spend the money? And a lot of those times, my answer was no, I'm against it. Mm-hmm. But then, I may have been outvoted, and so the decision was, the federal government's going to spend that money. It's kind of like, okay. And then I'd go to bat to make sure we got as much of it back to West Michigan. And then sometimes people would criticize you and say, well, you voted against the spending. It's kind of like, yeah, I thought it was a bad idea, but if you're going to spend it, I'd like some of it to come back to West Michigan. They said, well, that's hypocritical. And it's kind of like, no, because it would only be hypocritical because I voted against it, the people of West Michigan didn't have to pay for it. Their taxes would be reduced because their congressman wasn't supporting these programs, and so they won't benefit from them. But, it's the people of West Michigan. They were putting in just as much money as anybody else, and if the federal government was going to spend that money, they had as much right to getting that money back into their communities, whether it's for roads, bridges, or whatever, but they had every right to get that money back.
Well, I would just say that it's the same thing for people talking about it. I'm one of them advocating a reduction in compensation for our county commissioners. If, in fact, I'm unsuccessful at having that, achieving that, I'm still going to take the money. I will still advocate otherwise. So we are running a little, just about at the end. I want one other thing that I think is important that a lot of people don't realize. You are one of the few the congressman at the time and one of the people who was very correct. You voted against No Child Left Behind.
That's right.
If you want to touch on it for just a second.
Sure. I mean, No Child Left Behind, in many ways, it's exactly like Obamacare. With No Child Left Behind, we promised America that every child would be reading at grade level, by 2011, 2012. Just give it to the federal government. And what we found is that it became a law that never worked. There are still children that are being left behind. Some would say that the educational system is worse today than what it maybe was 10 or 11 years ago. And, now we're looking at Obamacare and people are saying, here's another promise. Everybody's going to get high quality, health care through the federal government. And in 10 or 11 years, we're going to find out the system is broken. In each of these areas, don't take the authority away from individuals, from communities and that. And give it and cede it to the federal government. I voted against No Child Left Behind. It has failed our children. It has created, in certain communities, environments where 25-40% of our kids are graduating graduating high school without basic, without the basic skills that they're going to need.
Well, you bucked the party and you bucked the president on that one, and I think most people agree that you not only were strong, but you were right in that. And you've got a long history. Yeah. Anyone who's interested in doing some homework, the Internet's got all the answers, but Congressman Hoekstra is truly one of the great conservatives of modern day. And my best wishes to you, Pete. And August 7th, folks, make sure you vote if you haven't already voted on your on the absentee ballot. So thank you so much for visiting with us.
Great. Good being with you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Pete. Yep, thanks.
The Talkin' Muskegon program can now be heard live every morning, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. here on News Talk 1090. This is John Van White.
And Brian Worsham. We will focus on community events, news, weather, and sports. We'll also bring you traffic updates, weekly segments like the movies with Ron Van Timmeren, the Biker Report, and Lumberjacks. This is Talkin' Muskegon right here, 8 to 9 a.m. on the Talk of Muskegon, News Talk 1090.
Whoever came up with the saying, put your money where your mouth is, must have had some dental work done. Just a filling can cost over $100, and other procedures like crowns and root canals can cost you hundreds more. Without dental insurance, you could be putting a lot of money where your mouth is. Fortunately, you can get dental insurance for less than $1 a day. This isn't a discount plan. This is real dental insurance that can cover over 300 procedures. Everything from cleanings and fillings to crowns and dentures. For free information, call Physicians Mutual Insurance Company. 1-800-709-2210. Your acceptance is guaranteed for one of these insurance policies, no matter what your situation, even if you're retired or on Medicare. Plus, you can see any dentist you choose and never have to pay a deductible. Get the coverage you need for less than $1 a day and put less money where your mouth is. For details and free information, call now. 1-800-709-2210. 1-800-709-2210.
The time to drive a new Chevy is now during Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC's Love It or Return It Model Year and Clearance Event. Every new Chevy is marked down with record savings. Driving a new Chevy has never been more affordable than right now. Get behind the wheel of a new Chevy Cruze, only $109 a month. Save over 26% on a Chevy Silverado pickup with payments as low as $195 a month. Drive the Chevy Equinox, just $159 a month. Make no payments for 90 days. Plus, we're paying you more for your trade than any other dealer in Michigan. We want and need your trade, and the proof is in what we're paying you for. Shop our 20-acre motor mall with the largest selection and the lowest prices you'll find in Michigan. Payments have never been lower, discounts have never been higher, and your trade is worth more at Benton. Plus, if you don't love your new Chevy, return it up to 60 days for free. Now's the time to buy. Stop in today where Michigan shops. Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC, both sides of Henry Street, Muskegon. Stop what you're doing and come in today.
I lost weight with the Amberen program.
I lost a ton of weight with the Amberen program.
Thousands of women over 40 who used to struggle with weight gain are having incredible success with the Amberen program. That's because Amberen balances your hormones naturally, making losing weight surprisingly easy. Plus, Amberen eliminates other symptoms of unbalanced hormones, like hot flashes, irritability, and sleeplessness. Call in the next 15 minutes to receive a risk-free trial with a 30-day supply free. Call 1-800-921-8040. That's 1-800-921-8040.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu welcoming GOP presidential candidate Mitt Romney to Israel, both expressing the need for solidarity in dealing with global threats. Romney mentioning Iran in particular.
As we face the challenges of an Iran seeking nuclear capability, we must draw upon our interests and our values to take them on a different course.
A government warning about chicken salad.
A prepared barbecue chicken salad sold at Trader Joe's may be contaminated with listeria. The salad made by Huxtable's Kitchen was sold in 14.5-ounce packages with a use-by date of July 30th. The chicken salad was distributed in Arizona, New Mexico, Southern California, Southern Nevada, and Texas.
Fox Radio's Pam Pusa, the bacteria could cause flu-like symptoms and in rare cases even death. Authorities in Massachusetts say a man recently separated from his wife shot his 2 children, killing his 7-year-old daughter before killing himself. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKVZ forecast for today. Sunny to partly cloudy skies and a high of 84. Southwest winds 5 to 10. For tonight, isolated thunderstorms in the evening, and then a few showers are possible overnight, a low of 65 with northeast winds 5 to 10. A chance of a few showers early tomorrow with isolated thunderstorms later in the day. A warm day with a high of 86. Southwest winds 5 to 10. And then scattered thunderstorms, a possibility for Tuesday with a high around 85. News Talk 1090, the talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum.
And good morning, Muskegon. This is EyeOnMuskegon, and we are back. interesting, at least to me, recorded segment with Congressman Hoekstra, and it's going to be a tough decision on a week from Tuesday, August 7th, to decide if you're going to vote in the Republican primary, which in Muskegon County, there, with few exceptions, there aren't any super-duper exciting races. Of course, my race with incumbent County Commissioner Bob Skolnick is only located in Norton Shores, and there really aren't a whole lot of other super exciting Republican primary races. There is one up in Ravenna that is going on, but I've heard a lot of my friends who are planning on voting, who are Republicans, saying that they may very well pick up a Democrat ballot. And by the way, I got talking on, what a shocker. I'm here with my friend, the legendary Oscar Osbo, and a new co-host who we didn't give much of a chance to get in edgewise because we had David Wells in as a last-minute guest.
I know David, he's such a talker. You know?
He is. Yes. Well, this is a very tough studio here today. But Tammy Derwin, columnist for the Norton Lakeshore Examiner,
correct,
among many other things. But Oscar, you had said something during the break. You just commented about the lawsuit that we had talked about before the
Right.
Congressman Hoekstra deal, and I loved your comment.
Well, I'm just saying who got to pay for all this wonderful stuff that happened here with all the lawsuits and paying for the court costs and all that good stuff. And it's like, oh, gee, we did. Oh, good. Yay.
Yeah.
And because they didn't follow their own rules, the
Right.
taxpayers ended up paying, more than they should have.
Well, and that, the taxpayers ended up paying. So to get the laws followed, which are supposed to benefit the taxpayers, and they had to pay both sides of the lawsuit, which of course was our side, my side, to compensate Attorney David Wells and myself for the filing fee, which is $155, and then of course we don't know what the county's attorney costs were, but the chances are was in the multiple thousands too. So yeah, isn't that ducky? We win, go running around championing, saying, "Hey, we won." In fact, though, but we got to pay both sides of it.
And it shouldn't have been something about as far as winning anyway. It should have been something that should have just been. They should have just told you the truth and been done with it. But
well, the goofy thing was, they sort of backhandedly admitted. Because they did give us, within, certainly within a month, they gave us the one piece of paper I requested, which was the deal that said that they'd already given out $1.2 million. And then they did this reenactment, which is the legal remedy to fix their error. And yet they still went on for months and months and months after that.
Did you get to wear a powdered wig when they did the reenactment, or no?
Well, we laughed about that.
Yeah, I know,
we thought, who's going to be, General Lee and who's going to be Pickett's charge? The sheriff's department does have a horse patrol of some sort. You could have had somebody riding in as General Pickett and charging through
bringing
the halls.
their muskets in with their laptops.
Yeah, well, the muskets and laptops would have been a great one. Well, anyway, it's we do need that citizen input, and
and that's kind of like I say. It all gets back to the same point that I made last week: is that without having the news media, on their tails all the time, asking the questions, or people like yourself, asking the questions, they just feel they can get away with whatever they want to do.
Yeah. Yes, and
then it cost us money when they screw up.
And we're not going away. And I'd like to mention something that I find very gratifying. There are a couple of groups now, or actually more than a couple, that have taken interest in county politics, not just at the county level, but at the cities and the townships level. There's, of course, the Muskegon Tea Party. Eric Rodoff, who is the head of the Tea Party, is running for treasurer. His race won't be until November, but he's had he's taken some excellent time, and on Facebook, he and another group of people have videoed quite a few of these candidates for who are running in the August primary, And I wish I had the update or the list.
Well, that's a great
email
idea
address.
too, because with the power of the internet, I mean, all this stuff can be put up on the internet, and nobody can get away with just about anything like they do. So.
Well, that's right. At least it's there. At least it's there in these videos. Well, it's Eric, E-R-I-C, Rothoff, R-O-T-H-O-F-F. If you go on Facebook and put that in, and you'll get his site, and then he's got all of these videos that these various groups got together with, and it was the Tea Party, and interestingly, certainly on the opposite side of the spectrum, was the Occupy Muskegon people, and the one thing that they share, though, is the interest in transparency. Yes. And they have the Occupy Muskegon folks, and there's another kind of a side group called the Letters Are Better, which is a group that popped up after Sheriff Rossler said we're not going to allow letters to the prisoners who are in the jail, and his argument, which I sort of agree with, but his argument was that inside these letters there can be the drugs, pornography, things that prisoners are legally not allowed to have.
Besides, the jail leaks so much they couldn't read the letters anyway.
Well,
the ink would run.
He gets drops from the plumbing on the letters. But there's you can have liquid LSD and liquid other things that can be on the letter that somebody could eat the paper, and so he moved everything to the to postcards. Of course, I suppose you could do the same thing with a postcard, but. Anyway, this Letters Are Better group is opposing the expansion of the jail on a variety of levels. So coming this next Tuesday, which I believe is going to be the 31st, at 3:30 on the 4th floor of the county building, will be the regularly scheduled Muskegon County Commission full board meeting. And I know that Letters Are Better and some of these other groups are going to be doing a protest about the way the jail decision has been handled. It's been done in the shadows. There's been little discussion as to what it's going to cost, who would pay for it.
And little coverage, I would imagine.
Well, that's a great point. Will there be? Here we're talking about it. We know that that the Chronicle is out there, and they don't have the staff they used to have. Right. So maybe they'll be there if they're smart. Maybe they'll bring in some of the news stations from Grand Rapids. But whether you agree or not, certainly having more information about an issue that may cost $35 or I've heard as much as $45 or $50 million, this is an enormous expense.
You know what the strange thing is about that, though, is that we had that when we came up with our school that needed a football field. It cost as much money, almost as much money, to redo the field as it did to build a brand new field. Is that the same case with this jail, or do we know anything about that? I mean, will it cost us almost as much to redo everything in there as it? Because there's a lot of problems with it. I know that, but
well, that's to me a fabulous question, and we don't know. They're not.
So nobody's telling.
No one has said, "Hey, we've brought in contractors, and they've given us quotes, and it's going to cost us this much to bring the jail up to snuff." Mm-hmm. To the best of my knowledge, that's not even been considered. There are allegations out there by a lot of people that regular janitorial maintenance has been in fact deferred on purpose because of all of the. I'm a big reader and listener about this jail situation because I'm not made my decision up, but there are allegations that well, let me stop here. The reason given why we need a new jail is one, it's overfilled, and we can talk about that later on. But the other one is that it leaks, it's got problems. But essentially, what I'm hearing is the carpets are bad, the walls are bad, the paint's bad, the ceilings are bad, and there are plumbing leaks and things of that sort. All of those are basic level janitorial. I've not heard anybody say that structurally this is not, that they're serious problems. And I have heard people who are insiders, there are elected officials who've said that they are concerned that regular janitorial, like replacing of carpets and paint, and if you've got a leaky pipe, it would seem to me if you've got a sheriff who's operating the jail and he's had leaks for months, that alone ought to be the reason to get rid of that sheriff, because plumbing is fixable.
Right.
And I've heard that it smells terribly. Well, again, that doesn't. You don't need if you have a bad smell in your house, you don't say I'm going to. I have to have somebody build me a brand new house.
Right.
So we're not hearing about these things. These folks will be protesting for various reasons.
Well, they call that one guy up. Well, what's his name? The guy that builds people houses. We can build a new jail. Have him come in and do a big ABC special.
Oh yes, show with poor people.
These poor jailers have had a rough time. We're going to build them a new jail.
Well, if you look at the debt that the debt that the county has, we might qualify as it being poor. We've got similar
ABC special,
similar percentages of debt to some other counties. Actually, there's an interesting statistic which we will talk about perhaps next weekend a little bit. But the Detroit Free Press did this expose a couple of weeks ago on Wayne County, which of course is where Detroit is, and Wayne County's pension fund, it's 100% funding for your expected retirees' benefits is the way you are supposed to be. In other words, every year you've got employees and you put away a certain amount of money to make sure that your pension fund is fully funded. The pension fund in Wayne County is only 60% funded, and the Detroit Free Press did a big expose on this, and they listed a bunch of other east side of the state municipalities, and the bulk of them were like 90%, or one of them was 103% funded, which is the way it ought to be. Muskegon County's what they call other pension benefits, which includes the Muskegon County retirees, the retirement health benefits, is 28% funded.
Only 28.
Yes, 28. So here you have the Detroit Free Press, certainly not a conservative newspaper, having a fit and deciding to spend a significant amount of time going. They had a variety of articles on this, again, just recently, saying 60% is terrible, it's unconscionable. Here in Muskegon County, we have 28% funded. That's very scary. I know if I was an employee of the county, I'd be very frightened. And it's sad to me that our county commissioners are not screaming, to everybody saying, look, we've got this situation. But instead what they're screaming, and the vote was not long ago, what's the number one issue that we want to address for 2012? All of the county, or most of the county supervisors of the various departments and the county commissioners all took a vote, and the number one issue was we want to go spend another $35 to $50 million on a new jail.
Yeah.
So being fiscally responsible, matter of fact, it wasn't even in the top 10. Fixing this huge underfunding of our pension and our health benefits, which adds up, by the way, we've mentioned this ad nauseum, but adds up to over $109 million. That is underfunded, hasn't been an issue. Anyway, we soldier on. We try to have a conversation about what's going on. We are always pushing transparency. I can argue that the jail's a good idea or a bad idea if I know the information. Oscar, you said, well, what would it cost to fix it?
Right.
To the best of my knowledge, nobody's bothered to ask. They've spent all of their attention on trying to convince us that we need a new one.
Right.
Do they have a plan for what they're going to do with the inmates while this is taking place?
They've been patching it for all this time. Why have they been patching it? Why isn't there any money there for them to fix it properly?
Well, those are good questions, and they haven't been answered publicly.
Yeah.
And your point. Now, if they were to redo it inside of the building, that's a good question. That would be a reason to have a new building, because then they could keep them in the old one and build the new one. But those are legitimate questions. These are not obnoxious, nasty questions.
Right.
But why not communicate with us? And we have a mindset at the county level that is, to me, a little frightening. And, we just saw what the Muskegon Heights schools just had somebody came in and looked at the physical condition of one of the schools, and over 100 violations of various codes.
Right.
It seems to me that somebody wasn't doing their job, but other people who were in that building, my gosh, one thing about schools, it's filled with college-educated people. These are, not folks who don't know anything. That nobody saw any of these physical violations that may very well, some of them created a potentially dangerous situation for children.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet we don't find out about it till after the place goes belly up.
Of course, I notice a lot of good college graduates that have no common sense, but anyway.
Well, again, I don't know why what happened. I don't know why these college graduates that were in this building, 5 days a week, didn't make any noise. But we do know that government does not seem, at least in Muskegon County, the government leaders do not seem to be all that tremendously interested in communicating, the reasons to get support. It would seem to me, if I was a county commissioner, which is certainly my hope on November 7th or August 7th, but if I was a county commissioner, I would, and I had made the determination that we needed a new jail, I would be out there on the stump trying to convince people to support me because this jail is a great idea, because we've gotten that quote. And to replace it, like Oscar said, to fix it up would be as much as it would be to replace it. And if there's data to support that, well, that's a compelling argument.
I think they're misunderstanding the slogan "Don't ask, don't tell." I think that's what kind of what they're just figure. Don't ask, don't tell. We just do what we want to do. Just do it.
Perhaps they misunderstood and think that ruling goes down to local municipalities.
Must be,
Absolutely.
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
That was a good one. That was well, we do have situations like that, and we will continue, win or lose in this coming election. We are going to continue our quest for transparency and accountability in government. And don't forget, again, the full audio will be on EyeOnMuskegon.com sometime this afternoon. I'm on the Talk in Muskegon show, that great morning radio show on 1090 WKBZ with John Van Wyck and Brian Worsham. I'm on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and that show's from 9 to 10. 8 to 9, I'm sorry. 8 to 9. And, of course, Oscar's got us on TV. We are on Monday nights from 8 to 9:30 on TV 38 for you rabbit ears folks, and Comcast Channel 397 for Comcast. And, again, thanks, Oscar, Tammy Derwin, Attorney David Wells, who's gone, Senate candidate and former Congressman Pete Hoekstra. Thank you for being here, helping to flesh out this show. Next Sunday, we're going to refocus on the primary elections. We're going to have Captain Fred Birch along with Sean Mullally, and we're going to prognosticate. We're going to get out the crystal ball and tell you who we think is going to win on Tuesday's election. So listen to us. We'll talk to you next week, folks.
At Home with Gary Sullivan.
I made a paneling choice mistake, and it's a rough surface, and it shreds everywhere. I'm wondering if there's anything I can do to make it a surface that I can wipe off someday?
You could sand it down smooth. What you could do is you could get some panels which are like a cement board siding and put those up. If you stain it, it's not going to change the texture at all. If you paint it, that'll smooth it out a little bit.
Catch the show Sunday afternoons at 6 on News Talk 1090 WKBZ.
I lost weight with the Amberin program.
I lost a ton of weight with the Amberin program.
Thousands of women over 40 who used to struggle with weight gain are having incredible success with the Amberin program. That's because Amberin balances your hormones naturally, making losing weight surprisingly easy. Plus, Amberin eliminates other symptoms of unbalanced hormones, like hot flashes, irritability, and sleeplessness. Call in the next 15 minutes to receive a risk-free trial with a 30-day supply free. Call 1-800-921-8040. That's 1-800-921-8040.
This is WKBZ Muskegon and WOOD HD2 Muskegon.
It's another Sunday, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning, which means it's polka time. Good morning, I'm Tom Sanaki, your West Michigan polka DJ. I'm here with you all the way until noon today. It's Sunday morning, July 29th, 2012. And 10 o'clock in the morning, turn up the radio. Come on, folks. Involve the younger generation with some good, clean, wholesome family time. We call this the Polka Melodies.
Hello, hello, hello. What a wonderful word, hello. Hello, hello, hello. You can hear it wherever you go. And when you greet your friends with polka dances, or even someone you don't